Hey, early childhood educators, welcome to Human Skills Training, where we translate modern neuroscience into what actually works in practice. I'm your host, Chris Danilo, and my background is in child development and neuroscience. And for the last few years, I've been facilitating high energy, useful, and fun professional development workshops for educators like you. Enjoy this episode. I hope you learn a lot, but more importantly, I hope you do something great with it. Wow. Okay, so we have Ellen Will here, we're so lucky to have for a lot of reasons. But one reason we're lucky is because you just had a huge storm rage through Happy Valley, and so somehow magically you have power and internet, and you can chat.
That is true.
Which is amazing.
Yep.
Ellen, you and I just met recently, and our worlds collided at a workshop. And one of the things that I quickly learned and liked about you was that you were a person who I feel like can identify and understand thoughts and feelings in your own mind and body, and then had a really smart, kind of thoughtful approach to responding to those. And relaying those to the other people in the workshop and group, and in a way that made people feel connected to you. And I just think that's a special gift to be able to do all three of those things in a row. I don't think most people can do all of them. Maybe a few, maybe one, but definitely not all in a row. And I just love that about you. And then I learned a little bit more about kind of your work. And I was like, oh my gosh, I should be chatting with Ellen about culture and leadership and management and all these things. And somehow you were like, yes, I would like to chat with you.
Yeah, I would. It helped that your workshop was free. I know you were doing I need to try out some new stuff. So I'm going to make it free to entice people to come. So I appreciated that. And I was having a really bad week leading up to that. I thought, I really don't want to do this, but I signed up and I committed, and so I'm going to go. And it was actually the activities that we did, I'll be honest, I have done before.
Yeah.
But some of the ways that you presented and the opportunity to do those activities with a group of people I didn't know made it different and interesting. And I did have some of my own sort of aha moments in there as well. And so I appreciated the opportunity, to come and be a part of that experience. So that was fun.
That is so nice of you to say that. And that helps, that really makes me feel good. Because there are so many games and icebreakers and things that we've all done in workshops and things. But when it feels different, that's a raving endorsement. Thanks for saying that. So one of the cool things that I know about you is that you work with an organization called Shavers Creek, and you're wearing an outdoor school shirt today.
Representing. Yep.
Tell me about Shavers Creek. Tell me about outdoor school.
Yeah. So Shavers Creek is Penn State's nature center. So we are one of the outreach units at Penn State, and our sort of charge is to connect people, to connect people to the natural world, and to be a place where Penn State students can come and get really practical hands-on experience doing the things that they are studying. Instead of waiting 4 years to graduate and then go do the things, they can do the things.
What a remarkable idea.
Yeah, so it's really fun. And very soon, next year, Shavers Creek will celebrate its 50th anniversary, which is pretty exciting. And then Outdoor School is one of the many programs at Shavers Creek. And next year, Outdoor School will celebrate its 70th anniversary, which is amazing that it has been happening for that long. I have not been there that long, but yeah, so Outdoor School is a place where fifth grade classrooms come for a 4-day, 3-night, overnight outdoor education experience. And we recruit Penn State students to come and be both the cabin counselors to live and take care of the campers or the kids, and also to be learning group leaders, who are the folks who actually teach the lessons. So as one of the many Shavers Creek programs, our seasonal educators at Shavers Creek get to participate as leaders at Outdoor School, which is pretty fun.
So you've got a bunch of programs at Shavers Creek, And
Yes.
this is one that I've learned has like a really great, like, what I say NPS score, like retention rate. People seem to be
Hmm.
really happy when they go through it, whether they're participating in it as a student or whether they're participating in it as a mentor or like a leader. And so something like that, especially if you have the track record and sustainable track record for like 50 or 70 years of like an organization's existence, usually my brain first kind of like thinks about values and like how those values are portrayed, but also like acted out as an organization. And I think usually when we do that well, we think of that as culture, right? People like us do things like this. Is a little snippet that I love from the prolific Seth Godin. I don't think there's a snippet that's like as clear as that. People like us do things like this, right? So I feel like you're doing something that's working really, really well. And one of my first kind of thoughts is, how do people feel? Like, how would you explain the culture feels to someone experiencing it for the first time? Like, so if I'm jumping in as like a mentor or a leader, and I'm learning how we do things at outdoor school, and you're training me up on how we're engaging with students, like how does that feel for someone getting onboarded?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things that are important to us. One of those is honoring the traditions and the history of the place, and knowing that the things that we have done for years and years and years work. So we honor those, but we're also open to outcome, which is a phrase that I learned from Corky Potter, who was the founding director of Shavers Creek Environmental
Oh, wow.
Center. We were on a trip with some undergrad students, and we were in Boston, and there was a snowstorm coming, and we were supposed to drive back to New Hampshire, but we could not do that in a
Oh
snowstorm. And he
no.
said, and I was panicking. I was
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
have to drive this 15 passenger van in the snow. And he
Oh
said,
no.
be open to outcome. We'll figure it out. And that phrase has really stuck with me. But I love to apply it to the idea of when we have somebody new coming in, either to be a cabin counselor or to be a learning group leader or to be one of our seasonal educators. Everybody brings their life experience with them.
Yeah.
And what does each person have that they can contribute? So yes, this is how we've done it. This is the tradition that we're upholding, but how can we be open to new ideas and valuing what each person brings? So I think that's an important piece of it. I think another important piece of it is that idea of valuing an individual's contributions and spending some time at the beginning to ask people, what are you good at?
Oh.
What's the strength that you bring to the group? And, sometimes when we're working with undergraduate students and maybe they're first year students, they're 18 years old, they're like, I don't have any experience. Like, well, yeah, but you've lived for 18 years. You're good at something. So even if
Yeah.
it's not related to what we're doing, what are you good at? So this past season of outdoor school, at the end, the students have to write a reflection. And there's 4 prompts. And one of them is, what did you discover that will help you with your academics? What did you discover that could contribute to your professional success? What did you learn about leadership and group dynamics? And then there's a question about health and wellness. And one of the students specifically wrote in their reflection, I really appreciated that the learning group leader asked us what we were good at and then allowed us to use those skills during the week. So I was good at this thing and not this thing, but one of the other people in the group was. And so when I was struggling with the thing I'm not good at, I looked to them and they came over and stepped in that role. And it was really great to see our group be successful because of that.
Wow.
When we're training new leaders, we've got this template for, here are the things when you have your first meeting with your teaching team. Here are the things we want you to ask and talk about. And one of them is, what are your strengths and what are the things you want to work on? So being really intentional about asking people, what do you bring?
Yeah.
How can we support each other? How can we lift each other up? And what do you want to work on? And how can I help you get there? So
Whoa.
even in just a 1 week time frame to be able to do that, I think is pretty powerful.
That's wild because what I think is so special about that is I feel like most people would hear that and be like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." Right? And so like a lot of things in life, there's stuff that sounds like intuitive and looks easy, but it actually is this display of amazing expertise and mastery. Because I feel like it's also really easy to be like, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea." And then when you go to implement it, it's like, "Oh, well, that's not a thing we do here, right? Oh, that thing you want to do, that's not what we do here. Oh, that specialty, like, well, there's no room for that. Oh, like, well, your skills don't match up and dovetail with the rest of the teams perfectly. So, like, we can't accommodate all things. And now it's just too hard to accommodate anybody's. So we're not accommodating. So we don't do that anymore. And so I think it's too easy. You know what I mean? To, like, be like, oh, it's such a good idea. Why don't we all do that? Because I feel like there's an art to, like, some of the mechanics of making it happen. How do you fit, when someone's like, hey, I want to do this, and there's like already 18 people who want to, who are saying this is this thing I need, like, you know what I mean? How do you manage to fit and integrate?
I think that we need to be flexible with our expectations. And so, when our learning group leaders are planning their lessons, we say, you got to have a plan and it needs to be thorough. And then you need to be willing to throw it out. Because when the moments arrive, you've got this plan and what your counselor is all of a sudden really good at doing and they're doing with the kids and the kids are loving it, stay with that and do that thing and give them that opportunity. And in the end, it all, kind of balances out. You'll still get to all the activities. And if you don't, that's okay. I think, being willing to create a space where it's more about the experience and less about checking the boxes of the tasks. These are the things we have to do. Well, no, these are the things we would like to do. And along the way, can we support people in getting experience in whatever it is they wanted to get more experience in? It's not perfect. It doesn't always work. Some people say, I really wish I had more time to teach. And then we write back to them and say, then come back next semester.
Right.
And do it again. And you will, when you come back and you get to try it again, you get better at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If you want to learn to make a latte, you could go be at your house and get a machine and make a latte every day for yourself. Or you could go work for a coffee shop and make 200 lattes a day and you'll get really good. Like, that makes sense to me, right? Like, you're like, hey,
and you would get
if you
feedback that you're not going to get from yourself.
Right.
Wow. So, you need feedback from other people to say, yeah, this part worked and this part wasn't so great. We had a graduate student a couple of years ago who, when we did our session on being ready for feedback, she said, let's call it feed forward, because really we're trying, you're here and we're trying to get you here. And so we want to move you forward. So it sounds a little bit cheesy, but I think when we say it out loud in class, the students go, oh, okay. Yeah. Because they realize it's helping them to advance rather than criticizing them. Because people like feedback, and they get all cringy and, feedback is scary. And no, feedback is meant to help you get to the next step. So we like calling it feed forward, which is cheesy, but I think effective.
Yeah, no, I like that because it does kind of it sort of challenges I don't know if it's a mindset or assumption, but this feeling that feedback is a step back. Right? And by saying feed forward, you're saying, no. This is feeding the virtuous cycle of the flywheel that if we keep putting, like, no. Like, this is forward. Like, this is momentum. Which I think is a wildly different thing because it's so easy when we get feedback. It's like criticism that feels like, it's too easy to be defensive. Well, the reason that we do it this way is because, right? It's just so easy for our instincts to just be to defend the thing. And I think now once or twice or maybe even 3 times in our conversation right now, I've had the thought in my mind of like, open to outcome. And I think that's another opportunity for that phrase to slip in of like, hey, maybe like if we're changing our mindset here a little bit and thinking of it as a thing that moves us forward, then maybe that would also allow us to be open to whatever else is possible because of that new information. So like,
And that
oh,
even
go
the
ahead.
idea of feeding something, when you feed something,
Yeah,
like, you feed your kids, they grow.
yeah.
So when you
Hopefully, yeah,
feed something forward, you're growing somebody towards where they want to be. Um, yeah.
yeah. I love that. It also feels like so this relates to the sustainability part, right? Which is like, yeah. We have this policy. We do this thing. Like you've been gathered here today. Here's my ask of you, or here's my framing of what we're going to be doing. And the way we think about these things is X, Y, Z. But then like the small, frequent, consistent follow-ups that allow that thing to take root. So like feeding is not a once a day thing usually for most of us. At least for me, I need to eat several times a day.
Right.
And I wish I didn't because that also costs resources to eat as much as I eat per day. But whether you're watering a plant, whatever, it's a consistent thing
Hmm.
that you have to be
Yeah.
present for, which I imagine is part of your kind of like curriculum. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah. Or, the intentionality of checking in with people and not just
Yeah.
waiting till the end of the week. We build in to the program kind of daily check-ins or after each lesson check-ins between the director staff and the teaching staff. And we've told them up front, if we ask you, how'd your lesson go? And you say, it was fine.
Yeah.
We're going to push and say, was it fine? It was okay. I can live with it. It didn't go quite the way I wanted to. Or was it fine? Yeah, everything went just as I expected it to go.
Right.
You can't just say it was fine. It's a terrible answer.
How do you
And
get
then,
past that? That's such a brick wall, though, Ellen. Right? Like, how many parents are listening to this right now, going like, "Oh my God!" Every time my kid comes home from school, they're like, it was good. How's soccer?
right,
Good. How's
good. So
karate?
what I
Good.
say, right. So what I say to my kid, who is almost 17, how was school? It was good. What was good about it?
Right.
Oh, well, in history class today, we did
Yeah.
XYZ. And then he goes on this, half
Right.
hour tangent about doing a mock trial in class, and you get to hear all about it. So it takes that extra question.
Yeah.
What was good about it? What did you like about it?
Right.
It's like the difference between asking a closed-ended question and an open-ended
It's
question.
specific. Right. Yeah.
It's
That makes perfect sense.
specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's something that was great about your day today? Right? Like that's I
Yes.
think a little bit easier than a broad like vague, I don't know, a bunch of things happened. Like it's also
Yeah.
just like hard to manage that. I think for a kid but also for adults. Like I find myself doing that like me as an adult who wants to interact with like my wife. You know what I mean? But like for some reason it
Yeah.
comes out of my mouth it's like, "Oh, whatever. It's fine." Like
It was
I
fine.
don't
I
want to
did
get
some
into it.
stuff.
Like it's
It
too
was
much. It's like
productive.
it was a whole day of stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that makes sense. I feel like one of the other kind of like secret sauce ingredients that you have layered in is this idea of like psychological safety, which you and I talked about in the workshop that we were in, right? Like, which is basically if you don't know psychological safety for anyone who's listening and is not like 100% clear on it, it's basically I'm gonna oversimplify this, but basically the idea is how easy is it for people on your team or in your organization to like share ideas without feeling like they're going to be ridiculed, shot down, that their idea is going to be not implemented or tested or not considered, and that being able to do that, just the act of doing that and feeling like I'm allowed to share this is a really healthy symptom of like a great team culture. It seems to me like from what you're sharing, like that's a part of what happens in your organization. Like people are like, "Hey, I have this idea, I'm going to do this thing." And you're able to say, "Cool. Like tell me about your plan or your strategy to implement that," right? Like
I think it's definitely true for outdoor schools specifically. So, I have a co-director who's been with me for almost 15 years, and every year we have a new program assistant who just works with us for the school year. And I would say I'll be generous, I'll say in the last 10 years, I've gotten much better when somebody says, I have an idea. I've gotten much better at saying, tell me about your idea.
Yeah.
Why do you think that would work? What do you need to try it? And I'm much more willing to just say, let's try it. And if it works,
Right.
great. And if it doesn't, then we know.
Right.
So just, again, being open to outcome and wanting to give people the opportunity to try something that they are excited about. So my co-director came up with a totally redesigned lesson for the last morning of outdoor school, and put a tremendous amount of work into it. And I was skeptical,
Yeah.
and we did it as a kind of demo with the leaders, and they were like, whoa, this is a lot. I don't know if fifth graders can do this. And so he took their feedback and he went back and kind of retooled some things. And then we tried it every week. And every week he learned something. And every week he went back and retooled a few things. And by the end, people were like, wow, that was really cool. We had some really good conversation in our small groups with our campers. They seemed to get it. So just wanting to give people the space to try things, I think is important. And I think that's important for educators to be able to do that with people they're mentoring, but also with their students. If the student wants to try a different way of doing something, okay, let's try it. See what happens. I mean, who is it that says it's like Thomas Edison, or I don't know who it was, but said something like, I haven't failed 1,000 times. I've learned 1,000 ways that don't work, or, whatever, just reframing the idea of trying it. And if it doesn't work, then
Yeah, that's wild. I wonder, because like my first instinct can be really not helpful. Like my first instinct for a lot of those things would be like, well, that's not the way we've been doing this for years. We know what works and what doesn't. Like we would never try that. Like, of course not. Right. Like it's too easy to be like, listen, pal, like I've already done this. Like I've tried things. Like we don't need to try your idea. Like how do you, maybe you've experienced that, because I feel like that's probably also just a human instinct. But maybe you've also worked with people who are like that. Like, how do you flip that switch to go from like no to like maybe let's find a small low risk project that you can experiment with, or like what I mean? How do you shift? How do you do
Right.
that?
That's a good question. I don't know when and how that shift happened for me. I know with our program assistants, we have a new person every year, and every year they come up with something, and we're like, yeah, we've done that. It didn't work,
Yeah.
but I'm going to let you try it anyway.
Yeah.
Because at this point in my career, I am more interested in helping other people to figure those things out for themselves than I am holding on to, this is the way we do it because I know this is the best way. And that's just because I've been doing this for a while. And so I recognize that. How do I get other people to do that is a good question. You might have to ask them. I don't, like we talk about being good role models. And if we want people to be open to outcome, we need to role model being open to outcome. How do we teach our students to do that? I think they write lesson plans and we say, we've given you the basic curriculum. It's up to you what order to put it in. It's up to you how you want to reflect on each activity with your students. It's up to you how you string them together and tell the story. And then they do it and we read their lesson plans and we're like, ooh, I don't know if that's going to work. And then so we give them some feed forward. Like, have you thought about what would happen if, go back and compare your reflection questions to the learning objectives. And if they're not in line with each other, the campers aren't going to be able to answer those questions. So just, I think the way that we offer suggestions and feedback helps people to get to that place where they're willing to try different things. We have a lot of students who, for their reflection activities, they don't put a lot of detail in their lesson plans, and they do a lot of sort of big group. They pose a question and expect the group to answer. And people are not going to do that over and over again in big groups, especially if it's hard questions.
Yeah.
And so pushing them to find other ways of creating opportunity for people to process and reflect
Right.
that aren't just, oh, I have to answer in front of the whole group. That's
Right.
terrifying.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But I don't know. I think you'd have to ask some of the people who've been in our program what they think in terms of how we create those opportunities.
I mean, I secretly love that answer because it's clear to me that what you're doing is like mindset based, right? Like what you just said was, "Oh, I'm more interested in how the organization's performing as a whole." And part of that is like making sure that the people who are part of that organization are getting what they need and being intrinsically motivated to produce the stuff that we need, at a higher level. So like that you are now valuing more than you are valuing like the need to do it a certain way. So the execution pattern, whatever, like is less important than like, are they intrinsically motivated? Are they making progress? Are they achieving our overall outcomes that we're looking to achieve as an organization? Like that's, you just simplified quite a bit there. And I think like I'm really interested in like other mindsets that you may have that either consciously or like, kind of just accidentally help shape some of the outdoor school team culture.
Okay. I'm glad you asked because one of the things that I learned from, I don't know if you ever had the opportunity to meet Will Wise.
I love that. Yes, I did meet Will.
Okay. So Will was a colleague of ours. And one of the things that Will taught us is connection before content. And I have taken that to heart. And I try to be really intentional about starting every meeting, every class session, maybe not every day I walk into the office, but
Yeah.
trying to be really intentional about connecting with people as people before we launch into the content, which I think goes back to a comment that I made earlier. Maybe we were recording by then. Maybe it was when we were just chatting beforehand
Yeah.
about valuing what people bring.
Right.
And so for example, in our learning group leader class, so these are the people, these are seasonal educators from Shavers Creek and undergraduate students who have already been counselors at outdoor school. So they've done the cabin
Right.
thing, stayed with the kids. Now they want the teaching experience. So these are our learning group leaders. And so they have a 3-credit class that they take in order to be learning group leaders and teach a week of outdoor school. And so at the beginning of every class, we have a soft open, which I learned from, I think it's Mark Collard, who's the Plameo.
Yeah,
He runs the
yeah.
Plameo site. Okay, so I went
he's
to one of
great.
his workshops at a conference years ago, and he taught me the concept of the soft open and giving people something to do to engage when they walk in, but it's optional and it's low risk. And so we do stuff like that. And so the first couple of weeks of the semester, I will lead it. And then I have the students sign up. I explain to them, okay, this is what we just did. So it's one of those things where, the sort of idea of parallel process in training. I'm going to do with you the thing that you are then going to do.
Right.
But I also need to pause and step out of character and explain to you what I just did. So we do these soft opens the first couple of times and I say, okay, this soft open is an opportunity for people to come in, to get comfortable with each other, to not feel like we're like, okay, here's the agenda.
Right.
Now we start. And so then they sign up with a partner and I make them sign up with somebody. I ask them to sign up with somebody they don't know, because a lot of them are buddies
This
already.
is going on the
they're
internet,
friends.
Ellen. This
Yes,
right
I
here,
know.
just so you know.
Yes. I make them pick someone they don't know, or someone they don't know very well. And with that partner, they create the soft open for a designated class period. And so they can request materials or whatever, but they come in 20 minutes early and get it all set up. And then they're so excited to have people come and play their game or do their thing or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I had a student create a word search with all of our names and lessons and things, words that were related to outdoor school. And she was so cute, and she wanted to hand them out to everybody when they came in, and who could finish theirs the first. And they're like, wait, I can't find, wait, did you find? And they're
Yeah.
talking to each other, and it's so cute. And then there's other students who come in and they want to check email and do something else, and that's
Yeah.
okay too.
Right.
So the soft open is optional. And then we try to do a grounding, an intentional kind of thing with the class before we launch into the content for the day. But, Will was an amazing human being. And I think so much of how I want to interact with people and how I want to bring myself to a space has been influenced by him.
What a special guy. And also just special messaging. Because what you have done that's cool is you've taken the idea and you've been able to like execute it in a way that allows it to be part of your operating DNA, your operating religion of your organization, right? Like we start with this, we move into that, and the why about that is really clear. It's because we know that like we're warming people up in a way that they want to be warmed up, right? How many icebreakers do we have to do where people are like, oh, like how many eye-rolly, groaning icebreaker thing? Like, okay, I might tell your name and where you're from and your favorite pencil. Like, how many do we need to do before we speak to people and train people and coach people and work with people the way that they want to be spoken to, taught, right? And it feels like so easy, but I think the reason we don't do it is because we're like, oh, that sounds like a great idea, but like I don't know what to do. Do you have
Yeah,
like,
or you don't feel like you have time. Is there time to do that? No, I've got, 3 hours and I have to get through all of this stuff. But if you don't make time to do that, then it's just checking boxes and it feels transactional. And I don't
right,
want our, yes, it's training, but I don't want it to feel transactional. So we even, I talked about that template that the learning group leaders
right,
kind of follow. They have an opening activity. And when I look at their lesson plans, I'm like, you jumped right to what's your name, where are you from, what's your major?
yeah, right,
Let's just do something fun just for the sake of doing something fun
right,
before we ask people to share personal information.
yeah,
And I can tell when they do or don't do it based on the laughter and sort of the atmosphere of the room. So they're all kind of spread out to different
right,
places in the room on that first evening of outdoor school. The staff comes in the day before the
right,
children come, and they spread out in their small groups. And
right.
I can tell who has done connection before content
Oh,
and who hasn't, just by sort of the affect of the people sitting
right,
at the table. And I think,
yeah.
okay, I'm going to give you some feed forward for next time.
Wow, that's wild how it can just look, the room literally looks different
Yes,
when
it
you do it.
feels different. The energy in the room feels different when you take
Holy
time to
smoke.
do that. And so then it makes the rest of the evening more productive. It makes the
Yeah,
rest of the meeting more productive because you took time to acknowledge people as people and connect to them on that sort of, we're all just people here trying to figure things out versus I know it all and I'm going to tell you exactly what you're going to do this week
yeah,
and you're going to do it the
right.
way I told you versus we're in this together and let's figure it out.
That's so cool. One of the other thoughts I'm having as we're talking about this is like, you can do this for a team meeting. You can do this for a formal training. You can do it for like lots of different things. I'm wondering, like, when you have a new group of leaders or students, how long does it, let's just say you're going through your normal kind of like routine of like, bringing them in and doing a soft open and connection before content, and you're going through all of your, you're going through your playbook. How long does it take for a group of new people, maybe who haven't met each other before, to like start to feel like there is a cohesive culture? Like people like us do things like this. Like how long does that take? I don't know if that's an impossible question, but I'm curious.
Well, I think I have a special circumstance because the people who are coming to participate in outdoor school, they're self-selecting to be
Mm,
there. And they're signing up because a friend told them it was awesome, or we did a pitch in one of their classes, and whatever we said or
mm,
showed in the pictures connected with them in some way. So they're already kind of predisposed to wanting to be part of the group.
yeah.
I think the harder piece is when we have incoming seasonal educators, our intern staff, who did not do outdoor school as an undergrad. So they never were a
Right.
counselor at outdoor school, and they come in as an educator, and so now they need to be a learning group leader, and they
Right.
need to help create that kind of welcoming feeling
Right.
for the students, having not done it themselves. And I think that's a little bit more challenging
Mm-hmm.
for me because I definitely fall into the trap of taking for granted that everybody who is a learning group leader has already been a counselor and has been at
Right.
outdoor school and kind of gets it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to slow down and remind myself not everybody knows yet. So I think, in that case with our class where we meet once a week, it might take until maybe the third week for that person to really start to feel like, okay, I don't entirely know what's happening here, but I feel comfortable enough with this group of people that I'll figure it out and I know they're there to support me.
Mm-hmm.
It takes me saying, okay, wait, if you don't, I don't want to, call out anybody in particular, but hey,
Yeah.
if you're feeling lost, just make us stop and explain it. Don't feel bad about making us explain it, or
Mm,
don't feel bad if you just need to lean over to your neighbor and go, "What is she talking about?" I will not be offended if you do that, and to acknowledge. Sometimes I know I just get going and I assume everybody knows what I'm talking about, and if you
mm,
don't, please make me stop. And sometimes they
right.
do and sometimes they don't, but ultimately they catch up. But I think it takes a couple of weeks. We don't have a couple of weeks with the counselors though. So with our
Mm,
counselors, they only get to do 1 week because they have to miss a week of class to be at
right.
outdoor school. And so we do 3 training sessions prior to their week. And we start right away with getting them in their cohort. So immediately they're already interacting and doing those groany eye roller
Right.
icebreakers and team
Right.
building things with their cohort. And then they get together with that cohort 2 more times before they come to outdoor school. So by the time they show up on the Monday of their week, they already know each other. They've carpooled twice. So
Right.
they're building in some intentionality with that. And starting that cohort process at the very first training is something that we only just started doing about a year ago. And when I made the decision to do it, and then I also added a third training session,
Hmm.
which was this meet and greet the Thursday night before they come to outdoor school. And after we did it the first time, I was like, why did I wait so long to do that?
Wow.
Because this is beautiful and everybody loves it. I was so worried, oh, I don't want to ask them to do this extra
Right.
thing, but they love it. And it has
Hmm.
been, I won't say a game changer, but it has, I think, made people, 50% more comfortable with each other when they show up on the first day because
That's
they're not coming in
huge.
blind. They already know each other. Yeah, I really don't know why it took me so long to make this change. And
Whoa.
so now I'm like, okay, well then let's try it. Like that's like I think that's part of what I was saying before about
Right.
I'm more open to saying, yes, let's try it and see if it works. And
Mm.
sometimes it works better than you thought it would, which is the case here, which has been great.
Yeah. Holy cow. Have there
Yeah,
been
it's good.
times where it worked way worse than you thought it would?
Mm.
Or you were like, oh man, I can't believe I never thought of this. We should totally do it this way. And then flomp.
And then it didn't work. Maybe I've blocked those out of my memory.
Maybe that's another insight right here is that like you need to do that. I don't know. That's so
Maybe.
funny. Well, now my brain is excited about challenges. What's like maybe stop me if this is a trick question because I don't know if this is true, but like what are like some common problems? I'm going to say, is that the right word? Some common challenges that you run into when you are sort of instilling that culture. You know what I mean? You've got your unofficial start. You've got your connection before content. Like, you know, you're going through your playbook. What are the most common things that show up where you're like, oh, I know what that friction is. I know what I need to do. Like, what are some things that show up for you?
So I think the one of the most common challenges, just sort of an ironic thing, is that the counselors, sometimes we do too good of a job of creating community with the counselors, and they want to hang out with each other more than they want to
Right,
hang out with the
right.
kids.
Oh,
And
that's
so, I'll look out
yeah,
the window from the lodge during free time, and there's this clump of counselors, and they're all
right.
talking to each other, and the kids are playing tetherball or knockout or whatever. And I'll have to saunter over and sort of casually insert myself in the circle. I'm like,
What are you guys
so,
doing?
what you doing? What are you talking about? And they're like, oh, we should be playing with
Right,
the kids.
right.
So it's very sweet. But
That's one of the good problems,
I don't
right?
know. That's a
Like
good
that's a
problem to have.
yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah,
easily
it's a good
managed.
problem. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah. Um,
I love that though.
other,
That's so true. I feel like it's true for a lot of people. Like a lot of
it
teams,
is.
you know, like when you're really cohesive, like, you know, so
Yeah. So yeah, you get distracted by each other and
right,
a little off task.
right,
Yes. Um, things that I think are challenging for us. Sometimes there's kid behavior that we just are not experts in, and we there's only so much that we can do to mitigate it in the 4 days that the kids are with us.
right,
And counselors and learning group leaders will get discouraged because they feel like they can't
right,
work with this camper. This kid just is not into it,
right,
or they're acting out in a way that they're not sure how to manage. And we try to say, well, behavior is communication. So what is the root thing that
right.
is happening? And even if we can identify the root thing, we may not be able to do anything about it. And so the challenge is how to help people feel empowered to almost let go of that. And you're not going to reach every kid. And as long as the kid's not
Right,
doing anything that's hurting themselves or anybody else, if they want to pick at the
right,
grass instead of participating in the activity,
right.
that's okay.
Yeah,
And I think that's hard for some people because they want everybody to be involved and they want
right,
everybody to participate in the activities and get as much out of it as they can. And for some kids, maybe they're just not in the right headspace that morning, or something's happening at home that we cannot control.
right.
And so it's hard for me to see
Yeah,
them feeling discouraged,
right,
and again, we're not experts in all kid
yeah,
behavior, and we
right.
don't have that's you could spend 4 years of college learning about how to manage kid behavior
Yeah,
and still be challenged by it.
for sure.
So we have to do, the best we can for the most number of kids who
Right,
are with us,
right.
and be okay with that. But that's hard. That's hard to watch that when they struggle in that way.
Yeah, I mean, especially, you know, you and the people you work with are people who care, right? Like you showed up because you wanted to work with these people and you wanted to make a difference in somebody's life. So when it's not it's like you're not getting all of them. Like that is a difficult thing to swallow. And but I think your approach is very like healthy because it's a certain like there's a certain detachment that's sort of required to like continue to move on and provide great, you know, circumstances for everybody. And like, you know, it's just like, oh man, that is a difficult negotiation when you care deeply
Yeah.
about someone. Yeah.
Yeah. And detachment, right. It's being willing to let go of, I don't need to spend 10 minutes of my lesson trying to coax this kid in while the rest of the kids are standing there waiting for me to do something. So
Right.
again, this is a place where, because we're working in teams, oh, I remember that my counselor so and so has experience with whatever it might be. You know, maybe they took a class on, you know, special education or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can say, hey, while I'm getting this activity going, can you talk to camper so and so and see
Mm-hmm.
if you can find out what's going on with them and what we can do to help them. But yeah, then at some point you have to
Right.
say, I've done what I can do.
Right.
I either lean on the teacher who is there with the students, or I let it go and the kid will come when they're ready. You know, it's like
Yeah.
that challenge by choice. They'll join in when they're ready.
Right. Yeah, which is also like a very healthy and important thing because I would imagine is in your case a lot of kids do. They just needed that time and space to feel like they could, you know, process or deal with whatever they were experiencing, and then they're ready to jump in. It's almost like they needed. I don't know if this is accurate, but it's almost like they needed like a longer soft start, right, or a longer
Maybe.
connection before than like other kids or other you know, educators needed to sort of be warmed up to say, okay, now I'm ready to like jump in. Like now I feel like
You know,
it's my time.
and now that you've said that too, it makes me think about the adults, you know, the counselors and
Right.
the learning group leaders. Sometimes they need a minute too,
Yeah.
but they're not willing to take it because they think they can't.
Oh, so
And
true.
you know,
Who has time for that? Come on.
yeah, I can't take a minute to
Yeah.
take a deep breath and get a drink of water and look at my
Right.
lesson plan. And so we tell them, we talk about that. And again, we are so lucky that we have the ability, you know, we might have 15 children in a learning group
Mm-hmm.
and one learning group leader and four counselors. So we have 5 adults and 16 or 15 kids.
Amazing.
And
Wow.
so we've said, if you need a minute, ask your counselors, ask your teaching team
Right.
to do a water break with the kids or play a quick game of, you know, screaming toes or whatever,
Right.
so that you can take that minute. If you have counselors who need to take a minute and step away, tell them
Right.
that's okay. And we do tell them that, the counselors, on Monday. And in fact, it's part of this whole camper counselor safety sort of talk. Like
Yeah.
if you're getting frustrated and you need to step away, do that. Check in with
Yeah.
somebody and do that. But we tell them that on Monday. And so by Wednesday or Thursday, they have forgotten that we've given them
Right.
permission to
Right.
do that. And then they get all
Yes.
stressed out and they're like, ah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think maybe we could do a better job of, we have midweek check-ins where the learning group leaders and the teaching teams check in. We could probably do a better job of one of us starting that off by saying, how's everybody doing?
Right.
Are you remembering to take a minute for yourself? Are you
Right.
remembering to drink enough water? Are you remembering to?
Yeah. The
Things like that.
basics. It's crazy,
Yeah.
right? Like it's
Maslow.
wild that that's like, no, we can't. Like that's what. Oh, it means I'm weak and disorganized if I have to take a
Right.
break and go look at my notes. Like, right? Like that's
Right.
what?
Right. So that is something we've very intentionally done, is that the learning group leaders create field notes. Do not call it a cheat sheet. You're not cheating by looking at it. It's your field notes. You're supposed to look at it.
Right.
It's
Field
there to
notes.
help you keep organized,
Yeah.
so that you don't have to memorize everything.
Right.
But don't call it a cheat sheet.
Right.
You're allowed to have it. We want you to show people that you're using it.
Right. I like drawing that line in the sand with language. Being like, no, you know, we can't. We don't call it that. Right?
Yeah.
Like people like us do things like this.
Yeah.
That's like a hard
Yeah,
habit
language.
to break, man. That's a tough habit to break, I feel like. Did you ever feel like there was a time where maybe with a certain group or a certain project where like the culture was in jeopardy? and you were like, oh man, like it's never gone this way before, and you had to like step in a certain way, or like, CPR it in a way that you hadn't had to before. Have you been in that situation?
So many, many years ago, we had our first week of the spring semester. Counselors were just not in it.
Whoa.
It was like they just
Whoa.
didn't care. And I don't
Like
know
the
if
whole
the
batch.
weather was like the whole batch just seemed
Oh
like,
man.
whatever, just going through the motions. Like there was a counselor who fell asleep during a lesson. Like they had to come
Oh
inside because it was
man.
raining and they were leaning up against the wall and they're like, what is happening
Dude,
here?
what?
And I went home that Friday afternoon and I called my mom. I was like, what? Well, I don't know what happened this week. It was ugly. It just didn't. And she said, you need some kind of little way of kind of reminding them of why you need like a gimmick to remind them of why they are there. And so I thought about that over the weekend and I went back and, my co-director at the time, Paul Palomino was his nature name, is now a principal at an elementary school here in town. And I was explaining it to him. And so I don't know if you know the 5-finger contract. Do you know the 5-finger contract?
Oh. Okay, well, you
Like,
explain it, because maybe
well, so we do like be safe, because your little pinky finger sticks out and you can jam it and break it. Be committed. So your ring finger is to be
Oh,
engaged
right.
and committed
Yes,
to what
yes.
you're doing.
Yeah.
Your middle finger is often used to show disrespect, but it's also the tallest and most important. So let's make it respect. Take responsibility for yourself. So instead of blaming, you're pointing back at yourself, take responsibility and have fun. Okay, so that's the 5-finger contract. And so we've been using that for years as a contract with the kids. We said, okay, how can we turn that into something for the counselors that kind of elevates it a little bit? So I'll spare you all the details of how we got to this place, but we came up with 7 foundational values that when you put the first letters of all the words together, we get an acronym, and that acronym is CAMPERS.
Let's go.
And so it's community, aha, learning, like aha
I love
moments.
aha. I love
That was a
aha.
little bit of a stretch.
I know, I
Magic,
love the stretch. I love stretch. So good.
magic, positive outdoor experiences, engagement, respect, and safety. So these are these 7 core values. And so at the beginning of every week of outdoor school, so we don't do this during the training sessions where we've got 100 people in the room. We wait and do it when we've got 20 people on site. And we give them the words one at a time, and we have them sit in small groups and have a conversation. What does this word mean to you? How do you see it as a value? How do you see it playing out at camp? What's your role in making it happen at camp? And so they get 2 or 3 minutes in small groups to talk about each word. We shuffle the groups around so they talk to different people, but we do them out of order. And then we put all the letters on a big dry erase board and we say, okay, I used to call it Scrabble. Now I call it Wordle. I'm getting with the times. You gotta keep up with the kids. I say, okay, who's a Wordle fan? Okay. Instead of 5 letters for your Wordle today, you get 7 letters. Can you come up with a word using these 7 letters that makes sense for outdoor school? And every week somebody figures it out, some quicker than others.
Right.
But it's so funny when somebody gets it and they're like, oh, and they get it. We invite them to come up and rearrange the tiles, and we write them on little dry erase boards and they rearrange them. And when the rest of the group sees it, they're like, oh, that was good. I see what you did there. And so we're like, yeah, so these are our values, and what we do is for the campers. We want you as the staff to build community, to be engaged, to be respectful of each other. But primarily our job is to do that for the kids. And if we do it for the kids, then we do it for each other. And since we implemented that, and we do that every Monday afternoon, it made a difference. It really did make a difference. And then on our evaluation at the end of the week, we have those same 7 values, and we ask the learning group leaders to rate their counselors. Did your counselor do these behaviors that lead to, good outcomes within these different areas of being engaged and being part of the community and respecting the campers and things like that. So,
I mean, you've added a couple really key elements, right? Like there's accountability in there. There's like, hey, we're all going to do this, and then a bit of like the still talking about the accountability piece. Like, what is your role in it? I love that. Right? That's so important. It's like, yeah. There's the organization. Yeah. We agree. Yeah. Those are our values. But then to challenge them with, what is your role in it? Like, it is really hard to say, well, my role is to be present for this, and execute on this, and then not do it.
not do
Right?
it. Right.
Like, there's a
Right.
cognitive dissonance that occurs that is strong, like, creates a strong behavioral, like, influence. Right? Like, so I love that use of accountability, cognitive dissonance, like, whatever else you would want to call that. I just love that. It's a beautiful
And
execution.
it's on a poster in the dining hall, so they see it every time they come into the dining hall to be reminded that these are the things that we value and what we want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is so difficult. I feel like there's so many organizations that will do that part only.
Just the sign.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, welcome to Wells Fargo.
Here are our
Respect.
values.
And like, yeah, and you're just like, how many of your people, like, I don't know, like, in what way do you do you execute that? Like, in what ways are those things behaviors, right? Like, because that's what culture is, right? It's your company's or organization's, like, values in behaviors at scale across your team. So, like, aligning those things is so just like, that is what it is. Like, what you're saying is exactly what it is. What is your role in doing that? Like, that's such a good one. Like, that one question is just gold. I love that. I feel like having this experience, going through it culturally, getting that training, and feeling like, oh man, now I have a playbook for doing all this stuff, is an important experience. But what would you say, like, if you interviewed some of the people who have been through outdoor school and have come back again and again and again, and you asked them, what makes you keep coming back again and again and again? Like, what would they say?
Okay, I will tell you what they will say. Give me a minute.
You have a very specific example, I can tell. You're looking it up. You already
I have
asked this
two.
question.
Well, the learning group leaders, the people who are coming in to do the teaching part, they've already been counselors twice.
Right.
So they have a history with the program. They already have a feeling in their gut.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. It's going to take me just a second. Oh, come on, little spinny wheel of death here. Okay.
Oh, man.
I just wanted to say thank you for another amazing season of Outdoor School. It was the perfect final season. Thank you for believing in me and giving me the space and opportunity to be Clementine. This has been my absolute favorite part of Penn State, and I am so lucky to have something that I love so dearly and that is so hard to say goodbye to. Clementine will always be part of me. Same with ODS. Thank you.
Oh.
So that was one of our learning group leaders from this season. And then I had another one too. There it is. Thank you so much for everything. I'm really going to miss the awesome community and truly high quality people that come with ODS. I really do feel like I can be myself at camp and with you all. I'm so grateful for the opportunity and will always cherish the connections I made here. See you soon. Good luck with the rest of the season. So that was Pine. Those are both people who were counselors twice. They were learning group leaders last fall, and then they got credit for it last fall, and then this semester they volunteered. So they just volunteered their time. They came to class every week to participate and be part of the community, even though they had already done the academic kind of work.
Right.
They understood the value of being part of that community and showing up every week. I think that we give people, when you're in college, it's been a while since I've been in college, but when you're in college,
No one's counting.
you feel like you have to be somebody different for each group that you're with. You know, you have all these different identities. And for some reason, outdoor school seems to be a place where people feel like they can be their authentic selves and they don't have to put on a show. They don't have to act a certain way or talk a certain way or dress a certain way. They can just be their excited, nerdy science, outdoor, excited selves. And feel good about that and show other people that they can also be themselves.
Right.
We had a graduate student, Tim, Dr. Tim Mateer now, Aspen was his nature name. And one of the chapters in his dissertation was about emerging adulthood and identity and what groups people associated with and how that informed their identity. And he interviewed people right after they did outdoor school, 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years.
Whoa.
And not the same people, like,
Right.
I'm not going to do a very good job of explaining this, but it was sort of a longitudinal study without being longitudinal.
I was like, wait a second.
Well, right. So he interviewed people who had done outdoor school 15 years ago, and that group
Right.
was sort of the representative sample of 15 years later, here's how this might influence people. And asked them questions about their identity as an environmentalist or, you know, how they felt about group identity and who they were. And a lot of them talked about, I felt like I was a different person when I was at outdoor school or with my outdoor school friends. Like I would go back to campus and get together with my outdoor school cohort and we would throw a Frisbee around or, you know, go to a park or go for a hike. But when I get together with my not outdoor school friends, they think I'm weird if I try to sing a camp song or, you know, do something
Right.
silly that's from camp. And
Right.
so it was interesting how people, as you kind of emerge as an adult and create your identity, how all these different experiences might influence that.
You know, you're using like nature names, which I think may also like have a thing about it. What's your nature name? How did you get your nature name? How does one
My
acquire
nature name
a
is,
nature name?
yes, well, they say that the nature name chooses the counselor, sort of like the wand chooses the wizard. So my nature name is xylem, which is the specialized cells in a plant that bring the water from the roots to the leaves so that the plant can photosynthesize.
That seems
So yes. So I was an environmental educator at Shavers Creek a very long time ago. And on the way to the first training session, I was set to be towhee, which is a little bird that sort of hops along on the ground. It's sort of a ground bird. And on the way, I don't know, I just had this flash of inspiration. No, I'm going to be xylem because no one else is going to have a name that starts with X. And I thought that was really cool.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But over the years, I think I have grown into my nature name, pun intended. Because when you think about the xylem's role in the plant is to bring resources, water and nutrients to the plant so the plant can do its job. My job as the program director is to bring the resources to the people so they can go out and do their job teaching the campers. So I feel like I have become my nature name, which is, you know, yeah, it's kind of a special thing. And once you get a nature name, boy, it sticks. There have been very few cases where people have changed their nature name. Sometimes for good reason. Sometimes their new name fits them better. Sometimes we have people who participate at Shavers Creek as leaders in training with our summer camp program. And they're, 14 and they pick a nature name. And then when they get to be Penn State students and they come back as counselors, they're like, yeah, that name really doesn't fit me anymore, and they pick a new one. Yeah, but nature names, it'll stick.
No, that makes
nature name, I mean, I remember people more by their nature names than by their regular government names.
Government names. I love that. No, that makes sense. I'm like, man, I want a nature name. I'm like, what would my nature name be? I don't know.
Give it some thought.
Like,
don't rush it.
I just have to sit with it. Do I meditate?
Well, if you ask Cardinal, Cardinal's my co-director, he would tell you to go up to the top of Mount Nittany, and have a vision quest sort of thing, sit up there for a while
Right.
and see what
Right.
comes to you.
Drink a lot of caffeine, and yeah, maybe that'll help me come up with an idea. Holy cow. Well, maybe we have time for one
Yes.
more question. You have done so much for your students and your
Uh-oh.
staff and your organization, and I'm just like super glad that our worlds have collided because I've also just like learned from you, and I'm wondering if maybe there's like one thing that you now know to be true after the experiences you've had about building strong team culture. Like, if you could leave listeners here with one thing, lesson, tip, ritual, hack, in thought, like, what would you want them to know about building strong culture?
So the question was if there's one thing that I could encourage people to do, something that I've learned that I think is really effective. I think I would
Yeah,
fall
something
back
small.
to, yeah, connection before content. I think that
Mm,
recognizing people as people and recognizing that everybody brings something to the table, whether they realize it or not, is important.
mm,
And having that opportunity to soft open, even if that's just when you walk into your office in the morning, saying good morning to people
yeah,
and checking in with them as people before you launch into business,
right.
is really critical to establishing that connection. When people feel valued and heard, they're more likely to want to be there.
Wow. Well, I love that insight, and it's a great one to sort of end on. Thank you for being with me and with us today, Ellen,
Yeah,
despite the fact that you
it was fun.
have power outages and internet outages all around you right now. Thanks for jumping
Yeah,
in, and thanks for the great work that you're doing.
thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to chat about it.
Thanks for tuning in to Human Skills Training. If this episode sparked something, just share it with an educator or a leader who needs it. If you want to pick my brain, just drop me a line at chrisdanilo.com. See you next time.